Ah, the noble art of running. Nothing says civilized society like strapping on shoes so we can hurl ourselves down dusty trails in search of an existential clarity, sore quads, and maybe, just maybe, a finisher's medal the size of a beer coaster. But today's guest isn't your garden variety Strava narcissist chasing kudos. No, Wes Cornett is the genuine article. A retired Air Force Special Warfare operator who's traded in the uniform for trail shoes and the predictable path for one lined with uncertainty and grace. He's an ultra runner, a writer, and by the cruel lottery of neurology, a man navigating early onset Lewy Body Dementia. And yet, here he is, refusing to quit. Showing up every day with a plan to run the Western States 100 because when time is precious, the only choice is to spend it well. Now, this episode is about getting lost on a trail and in your own mind, then finding your way back. It's about mental health, sobriety, the Appalachian Trail, and why pizza is the ideal ultramarathon fuel. Take that, gels. So settle in, fellow seekers of mileage and meaning. This one's for the stubborn, the hopeful, the unreasonably determined. Cue that intro music.
Who says you need to fly to reach the top? Keep beating your block till your feet are hot. Get your head out the sand, join the flock. It's okay to run scared, we enjoy the lie.
Welcome back to the Ostrich Running Podcast. I'm Nick Mraz, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Jarrett The Juice Horton. And today we've got Wes Cornett joining us. Wes is an ultra runner, writer, and retired Air Force operator who's sharing one of the most honest and human stories you'll hear on this show. From the Appalachian Trail to 100-milers, from Lewy Body Dementia diagnosis to preparing for the Western States 100.
Wow.
Wes is proof that sometimes running isn't about winning. It's about not giving up. Now grab your shoes, grab your miles, and let's settle in. This is going to be a good one. Wes, welcome to the show. We are so grateful to have you. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are?
Oh, man, this is awesome opportunity to talk with you guys, first of all. And also, who says I'm not winning, man? Like, you're short.
Yeah, very true. No. You know what? Call me out on it. You're right, dude. You're winning.
No, there's no winning around here. My name is
behind
Wes.
You, I see a lot of winning behind you there. So it looks like you're winning.
That looks like a lot of torture to me.
Yeah. Sometimes. My name's Wes. I'm a Air Force veteran, retired back in 2014. I was in Air Force Special Tactics. I think it's now called Special Warfare. And from there, I just took up running, and I eventually became into the ultra running world. And then I am a writer. I started my novel almost 25 years ago in Afghanistan. Wow. In 2002, in a shack in Afghanistan. Sometimes with mortar fire, sometimes, just insomnia, man. But that's kind of a funny thing, and I'm super proud about that. In my book, I'm self-publishing my book here soon, Veterans Day this year. Keep an eye out.
That's awesome.
And I continue to ultra run and continue to grow into that. And I was recently diagnosed with young onset Lewy Body Dementia, which we could talk about more because I know a lot of people don't know too much about it. Even though
I'm kind of oblivious to it, and I would
common.
Like to.
And I manifested into the world on one of my things where I talked about on my social media about being diagnosed with it. One of the things I straight up said in that was my goal from here on out is to run Western States, and lo and behold, I won the raffle this year.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy, man. So crazy. It is wild.
I mean, the universe
I didn't even know about the rifle till this year.
Yeah, the universe is wild.
More?
Okay, so remember I was just talking to you about the big recent Western States 100 race for a lot of the elite, 100-mile runners, right?
Right.
The Xavier Smiths of ultra running,
Nick Mrazes.
I'm not going to be in there doing anything crazy. These guys are fast, right? They're running this thing fast, but it's a huge race, and it's definitely a bucket list for a lot of people. And to even have an opportunity to run it is very rare for somebody. So like put yourself in that situation where it's like, don't even think about that you're probably going to ever have the opportunity to run it. This man didn't even know he had, in the raffle. And this year his name gets called and he gets selected.
You didn't even enter the raffle, or you did?
No, I entered the raffle. I asked my wife, Elise, and my daughter, Veruca, to buy me tickets for my birthday since it's coming up. And they draw for 5 people at the beginning each year, just a straight raffle. And I was one of those 5. I mean, I got my ticket for the actual lottery process, that goes on in December. Yep. I got my ticket in January when I finished the long haul 100. But I didn't have to wait that long. So it's just so wild.
Because it's not even certain that he would get that lottery pick there.
Oh, yeah. No. Right. So I asked ChatGPT. ChatGPT said I had a 2.5% chance to win the raffle and about a 0.5% chance to get in on the lottery.
This is what's crazy about
it's an invite-only event.
Pretty much. I mean, they're selected. They have some that are for public, I guess, like for anybody on there. I think they split the lottery between, earned and, people who are dreaming. Right. Because, I mean, you have to have like a good split. But to me, when you posted that and you told me about that, all I could think of was how crazy the universe is, right?
It is.
Like, just sometimes it just never ceases to amaze me that there is just something greater out there, connected for all of us. But at this moment, him, with a book to be released, with his diagnosis, with that being one of his bucket list, dreams, especially with what he has going on. I had to sit back and just kind of appreciate what had happened there, as I'm sure you did. So what did you feel like when you saw that? What went through your mind?
People say I am lucky. I don't necessarily think I'm very lucky, especially in things like that. And I go on the website, I refresh it, and I'm just, I kind of do like a cursory glance at the names, right? Because I assume I'm not on there. And then I go, wait a minute, that's my damn name. And I am just like numb to everything, really. Yeah. And ever since that day, I refresh and I check the website every day because I hadn't got an email, but I got an email last night saying that I was drawn. I'll be running in the Western States 2026. And because, my wife and daughter were like, well, they'll probably, let you know in December once they get, and I'm like, no, I'm going to email somebody or something. I don't want to be forgotten. So, yeah, it's so crazy. And I think he's so unique. You were hitting on it, Nick, that I want to point out that a lot of these races like that, elites and definitely not elites, can run together. Mm-hmm. And it's just interesting.
It's amazing.
It's a great thing about the ultra running, trail running community that happens. I'll be out there and like, Killian Jordan could be out there again this year. Caleb Olson, who just won this year.
Yep. And congrats, Caleb. And what
Courtney Dollwater, the GOAT, could be out there, and it's like, I'll be out there. I mean, we're doing it on different timelines, of course, but it's crazy. And just getting this opportunity, I know that's going to be tough, and I'm going to have to change some things to get there.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. I'm glad I got a year because I probably need it.
Right. Exactly. So I know. Awesome. So where are you located, Wes? What state is it going to be a journey for you? Right. I know we're in different time zones.
Yeah. See, that's a part of why it's going to be a challenge for me. Is I'm a flatlander. I live in Norman, Oklahoma.
Oh man.
About a mile from OU.
Okay.
And, about 30 minutes from OKC. Thunder just won the title, which is weird. Another crazy thing that happened, I kind of manifested a couple of years ago. I grew up in Indianapolis. I've always been a Pacers fan. I'm a big NBA fan. I've always been a Pacers fan, but since I moved here, I've grown to love the Thunder. I even had season tickets last year.
Oh,
Not
man.
this year, but last year. And then they get in the finals together, and I'm like, what in the world?
What do I do?
It was, man. I secretly rooted for the Pacers because they were always in my heart.
Yeah.
But,
it would have been nice to see them get that first win, right?
Yeah. But the Thunder, man, they played great. I love the Thunder. Don't take anything away from them. So, that was an interesting thing. But yes, the Flatlander thing is going to be tough.
Yeah. How do you train?
Where did you guys say the race was?
So it's in Northern California.
Okay,
yeah. So it's really like,
It starts
as you know,
outside Tahoe and goes to almost Sacramento.
yeah, it's crazy elevation.
Yeah.
And these guys are running crazy times. So I see that for friends. I have a couple runner friends out there in Tulsa, and a few out in Texas, like Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth.
Yeah, there's a lot in Austin.
Yeah. So like, how do you train for elevation? What do you do?
So my plan is twofold. One, we not too long ago got the fancy G Whiz treadmill with like 35% elevation or 30, the Nordic track. Yeah, the Nordic, incline. That's the word.
Yeah. This is the smart guy over here. We're not, us veterans, we're not.
Absolutely not.
Hey man, I got Lewy Body. That's why I was joking.
That's a great piece.
Because I miss words a lot now. But anyway, incline, thank you. And decline. So I'm definitely going to be putting that to a lot of use, and I'm definitely going to be taking some trips.
Yeah.
Like some training trips.
Nice. What, anything on, top of mind? I know you have a year, but anything that comes to mind?
I know I want to go to Arizona.
Okay.
I've never been, and it just looks gorgeous and
Yeah,
amazing.
it is.
I've never seen the Grand Canyon. Of all the things, and I've lived overseas 4 times. I've been about everywhere in the world, but I've never seen the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
And I would love to do that. So that's probably going to be in there. And I've always wanted to see the redwoods and never done that either. So
man, you know what?
That's
I
crazy.
have not been to the redwoods.
I haven't been to most of the national parks here. And it's crazy because I want to go all these places overseas, but I haven't done things right in California.
We have a whole world
Like,
here that is just amazing.
California is one of the most beautiful places ever, and it's like,
Yeah, and you're out
don't
there looking
appreciate
beyond.
it.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
when you see it every day. But that is the one thing that ultra
Yosemite.
running and trail running has really helped me explore and figure out what's even here. We're in Orange County,
Right.
California, and my running coach is like, try this trail. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a view. What an amazing view. This is right here. And that is the one thing that I really enjoyed about trail running.
yeah, I didn't know we had so much land over there where you run. Yeah,
it's crazy. If you find yourself in Southern California or somewhere nearby, somehow on that list, please hit me up so we can go do some trails
definitely.
together too. That would be really awesome.
I mean, Southern California has always kind of been one of those places I'd love to see. I don't think I could live there like you guys. That's a little much.
We just had
It
this
is
conversation.
beautiful.
I'm not living either.
I went to military freefall school in San Diego, and it was just amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I plan on running the Palo Duro 50 miler, Palo Duro Canyons, which is just south of Amarillo, Texas. And it's got a lot of elevation, and there's a lot of elevation down in like Big Bend in Texas and
Oh, wow.
stuff like that. So yeah, we got some trips planned in the treadmill. So we'll see
That's
what
super
happens.
cool. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So let's kind of rewind it back a little bit, right? Let's go back to Wes, military time. What year did you join, and what was that like? What sparked that decision?
I wrote, blocked up. You guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, because the video went down for a second.
Okay.
I wrote a funny blog about it and how I ended up in the military. I grew up just outside Indianapolis, a place where we got no military around. There's no bases there.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anybody that was ever in the military either.
Oh, wow.
I was going through a case of one of those days of teenage heartbreak. And I wrote a blog about it. It's funny because, and lo and behold, how the universe works, right? Recruiter calls me one day and I'm just kind of going through it. I'm upset with the world. You know how that goes. And he's like, hey, come on down. Let's talk about this. And I'm like, well, I ain't got anything else to do. And I know the recruiting office is next to a Taco Bell. So let's do it. Back when you could get like Mexican melts for 50 cents and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I went in there, man, and I was immediately hooked. I was probably like the easiest sell ever.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. I'll do that. Because I really, because growing up, I grew up, fairly what you would call poor, I guess. Definitely not the poorest, but, and, my parents didn't do those things, and they really didn't have the knowledge. That's how you get into like systemic problems in socioeconomics. And in school, whatever, I didn't care. Nobody really. They always told me to get A's and B's, but they never gave me a Y, right? So you don't get in trouble, you don't get grounded or whatever it is, right? And then I learned how to fake my report card, and then just that's what it was about, man. And I have no idea what would have happened if I didn't join the Air Force, because I wasn't going to college. They have money, and I wasn't going to get in on scholarship on grades, and, my sports, I wasn't good enough there either. So who knows? But yeah, so that's how I joined the Air Force back in 95. I graduated. Okay. And fun side story is, I always say I joined at 17 with a note from my mom, because my parents literally had to sign a release paper to send. You too?
Yeah. 17 years old.
And I turned 18 and during technical training. I turned 18. So 17 years old, note from my mom about a week after graduation, man, I was off.
Yeah, man. Oh my gosh. So 95. And, I think we all know, how much it had changed 6 years later, right? Because all I heard from when I joined in 2005 was, you don't know how good it used to be. And I'm like, well, thanks for telling me how good it used to be.
I will tell you, it was a whole other world.
Yep.
We were still training to fight the big red hordes.
Oh my gosh.
When I went through survival school, I went through the detention part of survival school, and it was based off of being captured by like the Russian army, big army, and that's the way we were trained. And later on, I would go to one where it was more geared towards being held like hostage, or something you might see more in the global war on terror. But that's how it was. We were trained to fight the great red hordes.
So when you got in, you immediately signed up for special warfare, went through that training, right?
No, well, not exactly. It was weird back in the day. So I went to weather school, right? When I joined, because I came in open general, don't do that. But I was in a hurry, right?
That's what we always say. Yeah. Undesignated for us in the Navy. Yeah.
Open general. But I was in a hurry. I could have had another job that I really wanted, which was radio. Because I was in high school radio. But I was like, nope, I want to leave now. So my impatience, that's always a thing for me.
17-year-old Wes.
Yeah, man. So I go through and I go to weather school. And it's cool. I always had like a passing interest in weather. I loved watching like the Weather Channel and during hurricanes and stuff. So that was cool. And then one day during that school, this guy, Master Sergeant Knowles, I still remember him. He says, come on by my office later, because he's noticed that I'm a bit of a quote unquote PT stud, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, well, he shows me his video. These guys were jumping out planes. They were riding dirt bikes, shooting weapons. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going to do that.
That one right there, please.
So the way it worked back in the day is you didn't go to pipeline from there.
Yeah.
Right now, once those guys signed, they even come in guaranteed like that. And if they get knocked out of the pipeline, they can leave the Air Force or whatever permanently if they so choose. But that's not how it was. So I was sent to Fort Bragg once I graduated, and then you got pieced out. I went to, airborne school, static line jump school, survival school, all these different water survival, all these kind of different things. And then I deployed to Bosnia in 1997. Awesome. Got shot at for the first time.
Oh gosh. And I like how you said it for the first time, because I'm sure that did not stop for a while.
Well, it was crazy too. It was a funny story. We were walking, there was one lieutenant. He was the only Turkish speaker in the United States military. And he was an L&O to the Turks, because y'all probably don't remember when they divide up Bosnia, into different sections to keep the peace. And so I was at this remote spot. There was like 4 Americans out there. and I was, doing weather, keep the weather updated, but I also had to do like personal security for this gentleman. And we were downtown doing personal security, and you hear bullet whiz and crack and hit this wall right behind me, man. And, deer in the headlights, 100%.
It's one of two things that you do.
Right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It always is. And I've seen it from tons of guys that you would think, no way, but it happens.
Yep. And that's what I told him too.
I froze like a deer in the headlights. And luckily this Army guy I was with, man, he grabs me, throws me down. He's like, I'll leave out the profanity, but like, he gets me moving around the corner and everything. And so that's what happened. And it turns out, this guy all he was doing was trying to jack a car.
Oh gosh.
And he saw people and decided to shoot him, pop off a couple. That was.
You guys caught him? Did you guys?
Yeah. So, that's my funny story
man.
about that.
So you, what did that training?
I was 19 or 20 and I'm just like, what?
Yeah. Wow. And I know it only got crazier because, especially going in that long, when I was in, when even the Navy's seeing combat on a regular basis, it was a different time, right? And I resonate so much because I originally went in for the BUDS program, for the SEAL program. Okay. But it wasn't like it is today where you're in the pipeline and you could just go through each pipeline until you succeed, right? I had to sign up for a job and, the BUDS was the extra, right? So hurt my back. Probably wasn't even mentally strong enough at that point. I was still, young, but then they send me to a ship and then it was off and cooking. And, it's still like kind of weighed heavy on me, but I know that, after a few years of that, I was like, I think I'm a one and done kind of person right now. And
there you go.
I'll be good. And, so like it shaped me though still, because when I got out, my mindset was completely different, right? I had a higher tolerance for BS. I had a higher tolerance for lack of sleep. I had a higher tolerance for, terrible working conditions. And I think that kind of helped me navigate a little bit further into my next career, which was anything as far away from military structure as possible. And that was the film industry, right? So like, how did that whole experience shape you? Do you pull from any of that stuff when you're training? Like, did that change your mindset? A little higher tolerance for pain and suffering, right? And this is kind of what we talk about, like why we all do this ultra stuff, right? We kind of, once you've had,
what's the inspiration?
Once you've had that, huge adrenaline rush, it's hard to ever get that back. It's kind of like chasing a dragon. You kind of miss it a little bit at times, but did you have anything there that, you draw from your experience that helps push you through these ultra marathons?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, and how I started getting into ultra marathons is, number one, let me say, if I had to go through the pipeline they go through today, I don't think I would make it. 17-year-old me definitely wouldn't have made it. Yeah. It's a new breed. It's way tougher, And those guys are tough, and I saw them coming in before I retired, and it's just amazing to me. So I want to shout those guys out.
What's harder now to make it when you guys say the pipe?
Yeah, because now, ever since Discovery Channel's BUDS class thing made it so popular, every class was jam-packed. Everybody wanted to be a SEAL, special operator, something like that. They were always going through Marine Force Recon, anything. It was the talent pool became a lot wider, right? Okay. We have, people like David Goggins, who was out there, doing ultra marathons to bring awareness for fallen special operator soldiers. They're looking at this guy setting a standard of like, oh my gosh,
I want to be like him.
I want to be like him. So you're recruiting a bigger pool of really like crazy athletes, man. Right. I was on a base where Dev Group was, and I'd watch these guys, little skinny, short, jacked, guys just running 20 miles a day and then going just PTing all day, just 20 miles here, 20 miles there, no sleep. And then they'd be off on whatever mission. But like, you just always look at them as like the elites, right? They're the elite runners. They're the Western States 100 finishers, first, second, and third place all around, right? These guys are mentally tough, physically fit, and a lot of them, you know, are probably could have been star athletes somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I met one guy on my team that came to my team towards my last couple of years. He had actually been drafted by my Indianapolis Colts.
Oh my
and
God.
was on the practice squad for a while, and then just wasn't really working out with the NFL. So those were the kind of guys we were starting to get, and they would come through a pipeline, and they were tested way more than I ever was, is my point. And then you even went on the Army side. The Green Berets went to what they called an X-ray program, because used to you couldn't go straight to be a Green Beret, but then they started a pipeline to allow it, because of course it was more needed during the global war on terror.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And there was a lot of mission creep going on, but we're not going to get into the weeds on that. But yeah, you know, and I'm actually going somewhere with this, but yeah. So I would, you know, if I ranked and stacked every special operator in the world or in the U.S. military, I put myself very much near the bottom for sure. And part of that reason is because I did not always take the opportunities I had. And I did not, I mean, it started in high school. I did not apply myself when I could have or should have. I was always able to get by, you know, without fully applying myself. And I just think about all the opportunities I missed because I didn't fully apply myself. And that's why I say that. So I think, to me, it's still started running, and a lot of that, and how I apply that to ultra running is as like, I'm still trying to prove something. Yeah. You know,
what do you think what do you think that it is that you're trying to prove that you can apply and finish? Is that something that
I don't know, because at the same time, I will tell you, when I started to hike the AT in 20, I'm like, well, you know, I always wanted, that was a dream thing for me, but I get out there, you know, and I'm like, but at the same time, I'm not going to go crazy. I don't need to prove to myself I can hike the AT. I've rocked everywhere in the world. All these different things. But at the same time, and I always have this, you talk to my therapist, I don't know what to tell you, but I have this undying need to always kind of prove myself to myself. Yeah. And I look at things like and this is something I don't encourage to anyone, because everybody's on their own path. But I would look at, like, maybe, the SEALs started getting a lot of love in CrossFit and David Goggins, some of those type folks. And you're like, well, he did that. Why can't I do that? Right. Right. But they're a whole different animal, and you just kind of got to remember that. So that's what I apply. And of course, the sleep and tired, right? It's built in. I got out, retired, and I met people like Elise, my partner. She is one of those people that cannot go 24 hours without sleep. And I'm just like, how's that? What? Like, to me, I'm like,
you can't just stay up for 24 hours? Like, what's going on?
What in the world? Because she runs ultras too, and she's like, I never want to do 100 milers simply because I don't want to miss sleep. And I'm like, dude, like, to me, that's almost unfathomable. Because right, you hinted on it before. I've been up like easily 48 hours plus.
Yeah.
Wow.
And different scenarios. So, like, definitely that, and the ability to take the suck a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. But it is a fine edge for me, because I know the suck, and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, all I need is prove this, because I've done this even worse. But at the other time, you do develop a higher tolerance for things.
Yeah.
So, Wes, when you first started running, did you start on 5Ks? How did you build yourself up to ultras?
Short story. I started running when I retired. I wanted to stay active, so I would run. Running was always kind of my thing, even when I was in, because it was the one thing I was good at, better than most, Right. I wasn't one of those guys that could be super jacked, right? So, and plus, it's a long time, and I kind of enjoyed that, but I try to stay active. Unfortunately, about a year and a half or so after retirement, I lost my best friend to suicide. And,
fellow military.
Yes. And it really kicked off a lot of things in a downward trend for me. Let's just put it that way. I was in a bad spot, real bad spot, because I looked at this man who literally was one of the first two people in Iraq, set foot in Iraq. He was also a free fall instructor. He literally saved lives daily, helping people get stable in the air and pulling their cords and stuff like that. And it meant a lot to me. And I, went into a spiral, a really bad one. And long story short, I talked to the therapist. She's like, well, you need to, do something. You need to commit to do something. And I had always had the idea in the back of my head. It's like, okay, cool. I'll run a marathon, right?
Always go straight to a marathon.
I was like, cool, I'll run a marathon. So I signed up and I ran the Munich Marathon.
Oh, cool. Were you still stationed out there in Germany?
Well, I lived there. My ex-wife, she was a teacher there overseas.
Okay.
Yeah, so I lived there. And so I did that with probably a bare amount of training you could use and still survive it. And I ran, so my daughter joined me. She's about 12 at the time, 13, I don't know. And she jumped in and ran the last 5K with me. And while we were finishing, I looked over and I said, I am never doing this again. And look at me now.
I did the half marathon, and that was my thought. I was like, I'm done. That's it.
So then I signed up and did a half, but I'll tell you, the road scene is so much different than the trail scene for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the trail scene, easily put it, you can go slower. Nobody cares. Yeah. And I feel like when you're doing these road things, it's, there's more pressure to run faster.
Yeah. I mean, you have no excuse, right? Like when you're on the road, it's like, well, there's no real hills and it's not rocks or unstable terrain. So I guess I got to book it at this point. Right. And that's what I've told him is I felt way worse after road marathons 100%. Than I have after
in a trail.
100%. And the last one I did was about a year or so ago. I ran a road half with my daughter. It was her first and I beat her by a couple minutes.
Just so you know, that's out there publicly now, and it lives on the internet.
She's going to kill me. We talk about this stuff. We've always been very competitive about things.
That's awesome.
She's been a great athlete, but she ran her first marathon a couple months ago, right at graduation from college. And
nice.
So I still hold the record.
Yeah, there you go. You can't beat that.
She must have been, she said she was in a rough spot. She must have been because I know her, and to be as close as she was, I'm surprised she just didn't find that dead sprint.
Yeah.
But now she's definitely going to go back and she'll definitely get it.
Yeah.
But she's kind of got her eye on high rocks now. So we'll see what happens. Maybe.
Nice. Maybe she might be crewing you, pacing you at some point for Western States.
She has crewed me and paced me a couple times.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. So
that has to be awesome to kind of look though and just be running with your kid. I wonder about that because
I always said I would do a mile with you, Nick. I'll pace you for the first mile.
Yeah, go. You take 90. You take 99 on your own, and I got you right here.
I got you on the lap. Yeah. I'll be there with you. You can look over at me
the finish line.
Yeah, right? Don't say I never did anything for you.
When you're running it at 12 minutes, I'll be right there.
Yeah.
No, you got to get in on the back end when they're barely stumbling.
Yeah. Exactly. Holding me up, just walking there, right? Yeah, man, that's so awesome. Because I wonder about that with my kids, right? They're young, they're 6 and 7. And I do hope for the day that, I'm still going and they're old enough to put on some serious miles. But, they see it, right? They see us doing these things and I feel like it's also a great time to set an example, right? Like my past, I think we've talked about this offline too. My past always hasn't been the prettiest, right? Where I've set the best example.
I'm there with you.
Yeah. And it feels good to have something that your kids can look up to and kind of be proud of. Right. Mm-hmm. So I really think that's awesome. And I can't wait to see, both of you guys cross at Western States when that comes up next year.
And I want to shout out strong women, just, because I am supported by two of the strongest women. I mean, even my mom, but most directly, Elise and Veruca, I would be nowhere getting done what I've gotten done so far with them. Sobriety, same thing. I wouldn't have done it without the both of them.
Yeah.
So it's a give and take. It's kind of setting a standard for my daughter, but at the same time, she really helps me. She's at the age, and I couldn't even explain how much more mature she is than me at 21.
I didn't start getting it together until after 30 years old.
I was even later than that, really. But
there you go.
like especially when it came to my drinking. But yeah, she's way more mature, so it's almost a give and take. Like I may show her things, but I definitely learn a lot and take a lot from her as well.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, no, I agree. And what was that? How far into are you with your sobriety now?
I just hit 3 years 2 days ago.
Congratulations, man. That is amazing.
Complete sobriety. I know it's not for everyone. I'm not California sober or anything like that.
Yeah, same here. Living in California and being sober, they're like, oh, do you still smoke? And I'm like, nope, I actually don't do anything. And then a lot of people like him who know who I was when I was younger, they're like, nothing? You're not doing anything? And I'm like, yeah, literally nothing.
Wow.
A lot of people I know from that time, they see me as a completely different person.
Yeah, for sure.
Than I am now. But yeah, 3 years sober.
Yeah. So were you already running ultras before the sobriety began?
I think it was right there, some point might have been after the first ultra. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. And that was kind of like, so what I was getting at too is, running came after my sobriety, right? I didn't really know what to do with my mind, my body. Right. I needed this outlet. And I didn't know where else to go. And much like, an addict, alcoholic like myself, I went to the extreme.
Yeah. Straight to a marathon.
I was like, let's just go marathon.
You find a lot of folks in that same story in the ultra world. You get that into that. Like for me, I wasn't an everyday drinker. I was a binge drinker to the max, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Blackout guy.
Yes. I was I always said back out or blackout. And, it was one of those deals where I could never have one. That's not the thing. Right? Somebody says, oh, we're going to go out and have like a couple drinks and go home. I'm just like, I'm not even going to bother. Or I'm going to go and turn it into something that wasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's me, pre-gaming the kids' choir rehearsal, right?
Yeah, it was funny because my wife and I, we have friends who still drink, and we kind of like whisper to each other after, like, because we're both sober, and they'll have a drink, like, come on, let's go out to dinner and have a drink or two drinks, and I'm like, geez, what's wrong with these crazy people? Only one drink.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, God, who could just have one and just go?
What's funny is my partner Elise, she decided to get on it with me, even though she was not one of those people, that could stop at 2 or 3, no problem. Yeah. But she's got on with me, but she still drinks non-alcoholic beer because she likes the taste. Well, it turns out I never really liked beer because
it didn't do it quick enough.
I don't drink non-alcoholic beers that often. Turns out I don't really like beer. I like the alcohol.
You're like, this stuff is nasty, and especially if I'm not getting what I need out of it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not a big like sit and drink athletics that everybody does now. Yeah, but I'm just
Did you like the taste of beer, Nick?
I mean, honestly, like,
you like the taste of it.
Yeah,
because I've always wondered that. I was like, why don't people just drink something like a lemonade instead of?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed an IPA was my my drink.
Lord.
Like I wanted like the nastiest, like strongest alcohol I could have, and then I was a whiskey guy, so I was just straight whiskey.
I can't imagine anyone liking it.
But I think my palate was also so messed up because I smoked so much. I was a heavy smoker of everything green and tobacco all for many years.
I smoked cigarettes too. I had the other green stuff. I wasn't into it that much, and then it came to me to a point where I even tried as part of getting sober at first was like, well, I can take a gummy, I can do this, but it didn't work with my anxiety at all. So.
Yeah, dude, I know. Like anybody who has anxiety, like don't go smoke and chill because you're just going to be in your head.
I would be like, what is the most calmest, put you to sleep stuff you got? You know?
Right.
I went to the store in Colorado, and dude, I took a gummy and I was just freaking out, man.
Yeah.
So no, that was a no. I never really liked beer anyways. I drank a lot of beer, don't get me wrong, but it was never my favorite. Definitely not an IPA.
It was just to serve a purpose and get a job done.
Yeah. If I couldn't get me a RBV, Red Bull vodka, then
oh my God, you wanted to be awake and just go even longer.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, well, hey man, back in the day I drank the real Four Loko, so
yeah, hey, me too. Yep. Wow. We used to do a thing called a sidewalk. I'm not going to go into that.
I don't even know what you guys.
I'm not gonna fantasize about this stuff, but yes, I was definitely one who liked to be awake. So in my extracurricular activities, as I like to say, I partied hard because I was one who would be up for 5, 6, 7, 8 days in a row, just going until my wife would have to drag me from the room, to the bed. And
it's so crazy because every time I saw him, he was completely calm. Like, yeah,
I'm just a chill guy who likes to have a good time. Oh man, yeah. So you met Elise on the Appalachian Trail. How did that happen? Tell us that story.
It was completely random, So I hiked in 2020, COVID year, right? Mm-hmm. And I separated from my ex-wife, and she was in Bahrain teaching there. I came back to the States right before it all went crazy. And I was staying at a trailer my parents owned in nowhere, Kentucky. And it was really starting to get to me. I was drinking a lot. I was on Zoom drinking with friends a lot. And finally I said in May, I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm doing something. Yeah. Because then my parents started coming around more too. And I went in the headspace for all. Yeah. I was separating. I was drinking a lot. I just wasn't in the headspace for it.
Yeah.
And so I booked a flight to Georgia, down, to Atlanta. I got up there because the southern terminus is in Georgia, Springer Mountain.
Yep.
And I was like, you know what? This may not work, but I'm going to go till it doesn't work, right? And for the first couple of weeks, I hiked from there to the Smoky Mountains with barely seeing 3 people.
Dang.
Yeah. And that's almost 200, I think, miles. I can't remember. But I went a long time without seeing people. And even when I think about it to this day, I'm like, man, that was some of the most amazing time. It was so crazy.
Yeah.
Because generally most years there's a ton of people out there, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, a ton. So I'm very glad I didn't do it in a normal year. Because of that. But so when you're out there hiking, much like ultras, but on a grander scale, you yo-yo with people, right?
Yeah.
I yo-yoed with her a couple times, no big deal, said hi, whatever. It was nothing like that.
Yeah.
And that kept into Virginia. By the time I was in Virginia, I was in maybe a quarter to halfway through Virginia over July 4th, and it was miserable. It's hot.
Yeah.
And, there's a thing on the AT, people always talk about the Virginia blues because it's the longest section. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's kind of boring, because you even have great views down in Georgia, North Carolina, and the Smokies, and then on the other end, it's even more amazing. But Virginia's just kind of flat. It's kind of boring. I guess some people love it. They love the Blue Ridge Parkway. They love Shenandoah National Park.
Yeah.
To me, it was boring. And it was hot, and I just was hating it. And I was really close to being like, I'm done with this. But I ran across her and a friend she had been hiking with since the beginning. And they had talked about they were going to go up to Maine and hike back down where it ends, the northern terminus of Maine. And I was like, man, yeah, that'd be great. I'd do that. Just in passing, because Elise at the time, she had her dog, Jack. Mm-hmm. And Jack was not doing well in the heat either. And they would be trying to get up at 3 a.m. to hike for a couple hours before it got too hot, and it was just not working for them.
Oh.
And so, and I don't see her for a while or whatever. And then I got a text from a friend, and he's like, hey, do you mind if I give them your number? Because they're talking about really doing that. And they asked. And I'm like, hell yeah. So I rode up to Maine with them, and I didn't really know what was going to happen there because I hadn't really hiked with them.
Yeah.
I knew them both, and we talked and all that stuff, but it hadn't been like, the people you get what people call tramilies, right?
Okay. What is that?
That's a group of people, that you hike with day in, day out.
Okay.
Like you always stop at the same place for the night, and you'll see each other through the day. I mean, don't mean you're following them all the time.
Yeah.
It just means like that's kind of your squad, and that's what you do.
You guys kind of look out for each other here and there. You go do your own thing for most of the day, but we'll meet here at this.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. When you get to town, that's who you party with or whatever. And because they're still doing that. And my family had kind of fallen apart because two had to get off the trail to do real life things. And so I was still out there hiking with a couple of people I knew, but it just wasn't the same for me. And like I said, it was hot and miserable. I hated it. And so I went on the ride. And so I didn't know what to expect up there. I was like, so do I just stay with them now? Do I hike away? Or they think this dude's creepy? Like, because it was another lady. She was in the Army Reserve, I think it was, or maybe she was retired. I can't remember. I should, but I don't. And Elise, and I'm just like, man, these guys probably think I'm a creep or whatever. But I stayed with them, and kind of went on from there.
And then you just a relationship formed, and you know that's very cool.
Very awesome.
Yeah, I like that.
We got off the trail once I got Lyme's disease, and and then we, I went and stayed with her in her parents' cabin in Wisconsin over the holidays, and then we came down here to Oklahoma because she returned to her old job. So, and that's that.
Yeah, and obviously you guys met before the diagnosis, right? And yeah. So, can we touch base on that? A little bit. That's kind of
like training with that.
Yeah. Well, so first, what happened? What were these symptoms? What was going on that you knew something was up?
It started about 8 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah, things started happening that weren't normal for me. I always felt like I was aging way more rapidly than I should in a way. But I also know, too, that, as an operator, jumping out, playing, doing all these different things that, it's going to have a bit of wear and tear on you. But I still felt that way. But I started having what I called at the time glitches, where I could be walking, whatever it was, and I would just instantly freeze.
Whoa.
Yeah. Like driving, it happened.
Oh, gosh.
Sometimes it was pretty instant, no big deal. But one time I had to pull out. I thought I was going to wreck. And then one time I did it. We were going to CrossFit, me and my daughter, and in the parking lot, and I froze, dropped my bag and everything. And she's like, let me drive home. And, she was like 14 or so and never really did anything like that. And I'm like, no. But we go home, and I probably should have let her drive because we had to pull over. So a lot of stuff like that was going on. That's how it started. And then I would, in the evenings, a lot of times I would just feel like crap.
Yeah.
Like you have the flu, but you're not sick.
Ugh.
If that makes sense. That's the best way I explain it. It's like a burning, aching, inflammation type feeling all over your body. And, that happened quite a bit. I did some tests at the time, and they were just kind of like, well, I've had a TBI and several concussions, right? And they're like, yeah, well, you're either having seizures or you could be dealing with that,
Yeah.
Because I had another serious concussion somewhere in there too. And, but yeah, so we went there. I went and hiked. When I hiked, walking in nature, there's everything, right?
Yeah.
Almost everything. I mean, I was doing pretty good. It was crazy because I was off my meds for my psychological meds. I was off my stomach meds. I wasn't taking anything.
Yeah.
And I wasn't 100%, that's for sure, but I was doing okay. And then I got off trail. I really struggled with Lyme's disease. And then the stuff started coming back, and, and then probably around 2022, somewhere in there, I would get faint a lot. And
was this while you were training, and you were obviously running at this point?
Yes. So one time I actually fainted while running. I'm out on local trails and I just feel like I'm going to go. So I called Elise, or no, I messaged her, whatever. And next thing I knew, I was on the ground. I think.
I'm sorry. At this time, you already knew you had Lyme's disease. Did you already know at this time, or?
Oh no, I don't. This was after being cleared from Lyme's disease.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So I text her, whatever, and I wake up, I'm on the ground, and I'm like, I don't know how long I've been there. I was passed out. How do I know?
Yeah.
But I should have looked at my watch. But I get up, I'm somewhat there, but no, not really. The lights are out, man. And I'm kind of like stumbling. But I know the trail super well, so I'm kind of like stumbling in the general direction of my truck. And lo and behold, thankfully, she found me stumbling through the woods, as she said.
Oh my gosh, man.
Like I was drunk. And we go back to the car. And she's like, well, I'm going to take you to urgent care or whatever. And I'm like, no, I just got to go home and see my cat. And that's all I can say. If I go see my cat and lay down with my cat, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And everything. So, we do that. We go there. Nothing, whatever, and then you do follow-ups.
Yeah.
It happened again. This time she was with me and I never really lost consciousness, but I got really bad. Didn't know where I was. Or
but at least you had a witness this time to be able to say this is what you were doing.
Right.
And
And through the process, go back a little bit. I also had been having chronic headache, not just migraines, but a chronic headache and different things like that. Right. And my neck, a lot of problems with my neck and being super stiff all the time. And a lot of things like that. And I would go to the doctor. We talk about this, talk about that. They would be like, oh, well, you got migraine with aura. That was their big thing for a while, right? And I'm like, dude, when I'm fainting and passing out, there's no migraine. It's like, dude, that's, but they do blood tests. They do this. They do an MRI on my neck and head. My neck has got a lot of problems. So then they just blame it all on that, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
we do some
Is
spinal
Lewy body
injections.
dementia something common, or is this a very rare, is this why it's not something that they were they knew to look for?
I'll get there in just a second.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's not a problem. I think it would be answered better this way. So we did all that, and then I came back. I'm still developing more things. Now I'm developing dysautonomia, which is, the things that we don't think about that happen in our body are now not working. A big one for me, and a lot of people out there have it, is your blood pressure drops if you stand up or something, right? Mm-hmm. And then for me, it caused me to faint.
Yeah.
Right. It's a little bit more than, everybody goes to that time when they jump up and they see stars, right? But it's a little bit more than that. And, and then just a lot of stuff like that. My eyes started bugging me because my eye glands aren't working and everything. And I had a lot of problems with my eyes, and they're just now getting a little bit better. And, all these kind of weird things keep happening, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to tell them all this stuff. And then they go, oh, well, you got fibromyalgia, right? Because that's a good catch-all, And, and you're doing with the VA too. So, I got friends and colleagues, teammates and stuff, they've had a lot of the same stuff. And they're like, oh, yeah, they'll say it's like a Gulf War sickness, right?
Yeah.
And all that, which who knows, maybe it is. Due to exposure. Because again, I've been exposed to everything.
All those burn pits and everything out there. Yeah.
And I think we're going to see a lot more of this because I'm on the leading edge, because myself and my generation, we were the first ones in there in 2000 or late 01 for some and early 2002, and so it's going to be interesting over the next 20 years, I think. But either way, then it was fibromyalgia. Okay, whatever. I started taking gabapentin, did nothing for me. Started taking Lyrica. That started to help, like, maybe my feeling crappy in the evenings a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I made a little progress there. I'd taken every migraine med and injection on the market. I did Botox, just no change, right? And so I go run one day and I fall again. We all fall on trails, right? It's not a big deal in and of itself.
See, we all fall. It's okay.
I do trip and stumble.
He's really falling.
I fall a lot too.
And I stumble constantly. Even when I was hiking, I just, and I always kind of blamed it on my big feet because I wear 12, but.
Yep. Nick is running at midnight and there's no light. So.
Oh, well, that's different.
I know.
It's much broad daylight is what I'm talking about. But anyway, so I tripped and fell. I rolled up on my knee. I did a full somersault. And what do you think I did? Well, I jumped up. I'm like, okay, you're right. Yeah. Keep moving.
Yeah.
And I did that and then went right back down, fainted, passed out. Got up. I had called Elise, like, hey, I'm out here at Thunderbird again, and this happened. I'm making my way to the truck. I'm a little bit more with it, but I'm still, shook. And she didn't call me back. She calls me back, and she's like, hey, are you still at Thunderbird? I'll come get you. I'm like, no. I'm at OnQ, which is a big gas station here. She's like, what are you doing at OnQ? How'd you get there? I was like, well, I drove home, and then I needed a Monster, so I stopped. And I'm concussed this whole time because I don't really remember hitting my head, but it must have been like the
Wes, you're a little stubborn, aren't you?
A little whiplash or something. But I definitely went through a concussion thing. I went to the ER and I had a lot of problems with that concussion. And I go follow up primary care and she goes, well, I'll tell you what, you fell. I'm referring you to geriatrics.
Oh, that's all you want to hear, right? You're
and I'm like, this is hilarious, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not going, what are you talking about? And it turned out to be one of those things that's really funny at the time, but turned out maybe not so funny now.
Yeah.
So and Elise is like, you need to go, just part of the process, go. And I'm telling her about it, I find it hilarious. And I think about canceling it. Right. I'm like, I don't need to go geriatrics, man. I'm not even 48, dude. Yeah. And, I go and I sit with this man, this doctor, Dr. Assad. And his nurse told me beforehand, he's like, well, this is the VA's Dr. House. Mm-hmm. He's very thorough in that way. He's not crazy like Dr. House, but he's very thorough.
Yeah.
And it was funny because my daughter and her fiance were in town and they were staying at the house. And I was like, yeah, I got to go to this geriatric thing. I'll be back in like 45 minutes and we'll go out to eat. We'll go get breakfast, right? Bro, I sat with this man for 3 hours.
Wow.
Oh,
and he is very old school.
Yeah.
And he writes everything down.
Yeah.
And he asked me every question in the book. He went through just about every line of all my medical records. It was the first time I think somebody had put everything together.
Bless that man.
Exactly. Rather than just saying, oh, it's a migraine. Oh, it's fibromyalgia. Oh, you got a bad neck. And then, we did some cognitive type tests and then we did some motor skill and functioning type tests. And he writes it down on a piece of paper. So he's also the type, like he wants to deal with one medication and one thing at a time. So he wanted to help with the chronic headaches first. Mm-hmm. So, he tells me to do this, which is use Aspercreme on my head, my temples back here, and then my occipital back here, like 5 times a day. And it's really helped a lot, to be honest. So life hack for you people out there who struggle with headaches, low-level headaches, for your low-level headaches. That's really been a game changer. And he wrote Lewy Body Dementia on the paper. And of course, what do I do as soon as I, get out to my truck out there? I hop on Google, chat GPT, right?
Yeah.
Like, what in the hell is this?
Right.
And I'm reading it and I'm like, what? Wait, what?
And he doesn't even bring it up.
He doesn't even talk about it?
No, he doesn't. Not really. No. That's what's crazy.
That's so VA.
I go back. I go back in a month, and I've Googled this Elise Googled this, and we're like, what in the world? So now she decides she's going to every appointment with me.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, some of this makes sense because I walk into a room 100 times a day, if not every time, and I have no idea what I'm doing there, right? And I'm surprised that hasn't came up here, but I stutter a lot too now. And
it's just because we're easy to talk to.
It's Nick.
I guess.
It's the Nick effect.
Yeah. And I couldn't swallow at times. I can't swallow. It's so, well, I can, but I have to think about it. It's really weird. It's one of the weirdest feelings ever.
Dude,
but, yeah, so we go back, and I'm thinking at this point, like, well, maybe he'll back down off of this.
Yeah.
Your man doubles down.
He doubles down.
After some more, tests and all that stuff and exam. And then he really starts to talk about it, and they give me the handouts and everything. And they're like, it's one of those things, first of all, that you cannot 100% diagnose while the person's living. Okay, because the only way to know 100% is after an autopsy on the brain, because it's these proteins that build up in your brain, and there's no way to really 100% be like, this is it.
Yeah.
But, if you look at some of the alternatives, it's about the same game, so it doesn't really matter too much to me. So, but to answer your question, yes, it is the second most common type of dementia.
Really?
Yeah, and it's right behind Alzheimer's, It does, tend to have more younger because, they consider younger onset anything below 65, and usually the young onset is around 50. And I'm just shy of that. I'll turn 48 in a couple of weeks, but, so I've been dealing with that. And
so you get this
medication.
You get this diagnosis. You're obviously running a lot more now. How do you handle that, mentally? Is there a moment where you're like, I think I need to be done running? Or do you, like you said, double down and you go, let me hurry up and get as many miles in as I can? What did that look like?
It looked like both, kind of, to be honest with you. I always joke, like sometimes I'd sit and cry about this, but I can't because I'm not producing tears. So my brain's so
the universe, crazy universe, right?
Yeah. So no, I was signed up at the time. I had signed up for Southern States 200. Okay. Which picks up at the southern end of the Appalachian Trail and then hops on the Benton McKay to the Pinhoti in Alabama. And 200-mile race, right? I was like, well, that sounds cool. I want to continue down there.
That sounds cool.
I'd signed up for that, and I look at that and I'm just like, there's no way, because, I'll be out there in the middle of the night. If I fall, hit my head, man, I'm a done.
Yeah.
I'll never figure myself out there. Hell, if you hike like one of those long distance trails like the AT, half the time, you step off to take a leak or get water or whatever, you come back up, and you're like, oh shit, which direction am I going?
It's like that crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing in like trail running too. So that was part of it. And so I withdrew from that. And I kind of at first really wanted to just be like, I'm not going to do this anymore. We went to a doctor's appointment and Elise straight up asked this man, I'm not joking, can he still run 100-milers?
Just straight up.
Straight up, man.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, you should do whatever you can until he can't, more or less. And I seriously doubt he had any comprehension of what it was.
He's like 100 miles. What is this guy talking about? Sure, he can do whatever.
Go for it. Yeah. I still don't think he has a comprehension of that. But and then I just kind of like, and then, so then I kind of switched my mindset, kind of like, well, then it became the mindset of like, maybe I got 2 years, maybe I got 5 years, maybe I'm fine, right? Yeah. There's always that outside chance. So I'm just going to go do what I can. And part of that was, like I said, I manifested it, I guess. I don't believe in that stuff, but that's what happened. I said, well, I'm going to go out and try to run all these qualifiers and increase my chances of getting into Western states while I can. Yeah. And, maybe I get it.
I'm sorry. Has it changed the way you train? Like,
Yes and no. I will tell you this. It has changed in a way because now I'm less likely to throw my hands up in the air and say, screw it. Which, like, when I passed out by myself, I threw my hands up in the air and said, screw it for like 2 months. Right? Because it's so frustrating to hit a setback like that, right?
Yeah. Right.
And stuff. But now I'm less likely to do that. I just am like, okay, today I feel like crap. I have this going on, whatever it is, you know. And that's another thing with the Lewy Body. You wake up and it's something new every day. And you go, okay, but I'm probably not going to die. So let's get after it.
Yeah. You know, what's your message, you know, for people who with major diagnoses like this, or maybe somebody who in fact does have this same exact diagnosis? What is your message, or what you would like, even a message for people like who don't have a diagnosis? Like,
right.
You know, like what is it that you want other runners, other people listening to this podcast?
Because this is inspiring me already.
Like, if you could leave anything with a message from Wes, what is that?
First of all, I would like to say that everyone out there is facing challenges, you know, seen and unseen. Some are more challenging than others, 100%. So always kind of remember that, and what you do with that is up to you. I do it, and I started posting more on TikTok and Instagram, and been working on growing my platform simply so if somebody watches it, whatever challenge they have, they may look at it and go, you know what? If he can do it, I can do it, right?
Yeah.
This older guy, he's got this diagnosis and this problem. He's a little overweight right now, whatever, which is something I got to work on before Western States. And, I've been having trouble with my appetite, so that's kind of helping in a way, but not really.
We got to get to that. You're not leaving this podcast before we talk about the pizza.
Yeah. Okay.
But, so that's the thing, you know, and I really want people to understand, you know, you have a choice in your challenges. Not everybody's choice is the same. It's cut and dry. And I understand that. Maybe you can't run 100 milers because of your challenges, but you could probably do something more than what you're doing. And you never know if it's help you feel better, right? You know, and I really want people to just take a look at that. And I'm not here. I do stuff because it is ego driven. I'll be honest with you. And I have a good friend who's a sports psychologist, and I talked to her one day about it, and she's like, it's okay to say that, you know, because that was me. You know, people, what is your why? And my why is like,
I need to
say I did it. To say I did it. Like, you know,
like, there's no crazy, like,
well, I want you guys to say that you guys have an ego. That's what I like.
I just want to say I did it, you know?
Right.
That's like honestly, is that the first time we've gotten that response?
That's the first time. Everybody else says, because
and she was the first person to tell me, you know, it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
It's okay to say that. And that was kind of mind changing, because also my penultimate, even before Western States, would have been Cocodona. Now, I don't think that's in the cards for me. Due to the heat. Maybe this year it's cold this year.
Yeah, right. All that snow and water.
Yeah. This year would have been my year.
Look, everybody's like brought to your level. They're like, I'm stumbling and I'm doing all this. You know, you're like, well, I live this life. So
because that's going to be another huge challenge with the Western States is I have a lot of heat intolerance and heat problem. But Cocodona, I don't know that's in the cards for me, but I would love to. But either way, my point is that, you know, you face challenges and you can face them. You can still do things. You're never going to walk into a doctor that I know of. I'm sure somebody does. And they're going to say, no, don't walk, don't run.
Yeah.
You know, and again, I just want to go out there and display that, you know, we think maybe Jarrett brings it up sometimes about ultra runners being these supreme people,
right?
But we're not.
Yeah.
Right. You would look at me and other folks who run ultras and be like, "There's no way that dude. The only way that guy's running around corners if there is a pizza shop." You know. Like, you know, and so I just want to put that out there in the universe, and you know. If one person learns something, or one person says, you know what, today I'm going to get off the couch and go for a walk.
It's all a mindset. I'm learning that more and more. It's a mindset, really.
And especially when you have a diagnosis like that, right?
Because a lot of people would have stopped. A lot of people would have stopped that day. And
I think, and it's kind of how we started this conversation, right? Much like the universe has guided us to a lot of different things, right? Your buddy who passed away, mental health struggles, right? Your desire to just go on that hike in the Appalachian Trail, meeting your partner, just
there's something bigger.
Yeah, there's something bigger going on out there, and sometimes we are shown these little signs of what our purpose is. And this isn't a religious podcast by any means, but I think it's always nice to just take a moment back and
there's
see
something spiritual there.
There is something spiritual, I think, within running, especially all of these runners that we have met. There's a connection there, and I think it's great that unfortunately it happened like this, but you're making the best out of it. You're making the lemonade with it, right? And you're enjoying the time that you have and pushing and inspiring. And I like that I see you more active on social media now, and I just want to see that. I just want to keep seeing that because, there's, us, there's a lot of veterans, suffering in silence, and
100%,
and we've lost friends, to that. And, for them to hear your story and to see you pull yourself out of that dark space and not only to push through so much and still come out. I think it's just this is why I was really excited to have you on, because I want, if not just the runners in the ultra running community, but for our veteran listeners out there, right? Just to see a fellow brother, just out there pushing through whatever struggles and seeing that there is a light, at the end of the tunnel, even if you still have all your problems with you, but you're still pushing through, right? It's just great to see another veteran, pushing and fighting the good fight. So
and also don't hesitate to ask for help, or whether that's professionally or just friendly, because like you said, I've lost maybe as many at home that I lost downrange. Friends and teammates and stuff. And I think that sucks even more, man.
And definitely in the show notes, I will link to a hotline. You or anybody that is struggling with mental health issues, whether veteran or civilian, please go to the show notes and seek help. I mean, this is why we tell our story out loud. That was the hardest part, right? Being a veteran, we're prideful, we're survivors, we're stubborn, as you've shown. You're stubborn too. You're still stubborn out there. You're still going on those trails.
And also back in the day, for me, I know it's changed a lot for the better, but if I'd said half the things that were going on in my head at the time, I'd been benched.
I talk about this with Jarrett. I say, it's not like, when I was getting out, they just said, you better not say you have anything wrong with you or we're going to make your life hell. Right. Yeah. And now I see the new generation, like you said, for the better, document everything, get the help that you need. And I think it's a great shift in the conscious of how we treat our military exiting. But there's still a gap, right? There's 90 to the mid 2000s that, we're seeing people, still struggling. I have friends who,
And also in a physical sense, I'll tell you, because I'm one who had concussions, right? And the key word was you could never say you lost consciousness.
Yep.
Because then you would be benched in our kind of career field, no deployment, no jumping, you're no good anymore. And so you'd be like, yeah, hey man, did you lose consciousness? No, man, I'm good.
No, I just hit it a little bit, And
I know that has changed a lot, and they've really focused on TBI type stuff. I remember on my last deployment, I had to take a test, like a baseline test, which they were having the kids do, cognitive type skills, and I'm like, well, it didn't do me no good. They're like, this dude, But it's great to see.
Wow, you're still out there, huh?
Yeah. So like, well, he's got a very low baseline here.
Yeah, well, this is the minimum we can get here, Wes.
Yeah.
Good.
But no, it's good to see that happening now. And they were putting sensors on guys due to, overblast and those kind of things too, and having them test again to see if, the mental acuity was dropping and everything. So that's, great. But yeah, you really got to pay attention to those things. And the shame of it is unfortunately we feel like we can't say nothing because we want to stay in the fight. Yeah. But that doesn't help us in the long term.
Yeah, we all got to look out for one another. Jarrett, I know you had a question that before we wrap this up.
Why pizza before runs? Why is that your go-to meal?
So just two things about pizza. I love pizza. Yeah. And I just kind of stuck with like my traditional before race meal,
which is
the frozen California kitchen barbecued chickens.
Hey, okay. If you come out here and you do a run, we're going to CPK down here. You're not gonna get it frozen. You get it baked right there, and you're gonna enjoy it. Right.
And I learned too. I struggle, as most ultra runners do at some point, with my fueling. Man, I will run, and I used to think I could run if I can jam food down the first half of the race. I don't gotta do nothing the rest of the race, right? Because I would get so sick. So much palate fatigue, or just like, and that's what killed my second attempt at 100, which I should have finished. Was I wouldn't even drink water. Gosh, I wouldn't even drink water. I just didn't want nothing,
That was me. That's me when I run.
And
that's a soccer player kind of mentality. Is I don't eat anything before we start playing.
Yeah. So now, I mean, it's a process. We all know as runners that it's a process to learn and train your gut to handle things. So now I will order like Domino's before race or whatever.
And I'm so hungry.
And every like aid station cruise stop, where it's true? Yeah. Jam on that pizza, man. And like get back out there. Pizza, cheeseburgers. There's a handful of gels I like, but some of them, like I moved into the Marlton and the PF. Is that what it is? Because they have virtually no taste and it's like this gel.
That's what I like. I've been dealing with those too, and it's no palate fatigue. You just go in.
Yeah, I've even learned to like roll it up and shoot it straight to the back of my throat, even in my mouth, man, because the consistency's weird too. But so that's it. Big. I'll tell you a game changer. Here's a pro tip that I learned from my coach at the time. Knock. Is that the name of the company? Knock Energy. It's like NAAK.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
They got this thing called salted soup. That is absolutely the most amazing thing in the world. Like, like a lot of our tailwinds and scratches. There you go.
Please no ads. Please no ads.
Yes. Ramen's a huge one, man. I love some ramen in a race.
I love ramen.
And salted soup, though, you should check it out. I'm telling you. It's a high carb, kind of like a tailwind. Yeah. No sweet. And soup. Yeah. So I ran this ultra long haul 100, 5 loops, and you would pass this one aid station, and this guy, I don't know who he was, but he had probably ran every race in the world. And everybody knew him. He looked like somebody you should know. But yeah. And he was making this thing called mashed potato soup. So he's using the flakes and making it soupy. And oh my God, I looked forward to that more than everything. I'd be like, hell yeah, I'm back to the aid station.
Yeah, you're right.
So on the last loop, this is hilarious. And it's about 5 miles from the end of the loop, give or take. It's not that far. And on the last loop, I've mentally said to myself, okay, unless something really crazy happens, I'm finishing in 30 hours. I'm getting my ticket.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm just kind of soaking it in. I'm chilling, whatever, and taking my time. And I also get feverishly hungry for the first time.
Oh, wow.
And I literally ate everything I had on me. And I'm like, oh, but I'm about to hit that aid station. But they were packing it up. I'm back.
Yeah.
Guy. And I'm like, yo, man, what's this all that does? And he's like, oh, we packed that. He's like, man, get out there. Like, you're done. And I was like, he's like, here. And he gives me like a little bag of a couple of Oreos. And he's like, get moving. Like, this guy's serious. I was going to sit down and eat my mashed potato soup before
You understand there's a cutoff, Wes.
He's like, you need to get moving, dude.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
But yeah, so yeah, the pizza, man, I'm telling you, if you like pizza, then
yeah, I feel like as you say that, like I can't even see myself getting tired, right, of the palate, you know. I'm just also really hungry right now, dude. It's the time of day where I'm ready to eat and eat nothing. I could probably dust 2 whole pizzas just on the trail, just walking right there.
And then the other thing I found that is like good on the trail when you're running, and it's also my go-to feeling crappy, having a bad day with things, is McDonald's, man. Give me a double cheeseburger with fries and that crispy Diet Coke.
Wes is back, baby.
Oh my God.
well, so one day when I did pass out, I was feeling crappy before I actually fainted, and I kind of landed on the couch. Elise was there. I don't think I'd eaten because I have been going through a lot of like apathy towards eating as part of this. It is part of it. Yeah. You just don't want to eat, you know? Yeah, I'll get hungry, but I just don't want to eat, you know. And I could use a little bit of that, but
I maybe need a little bit.
But the doctor said, no, you need to. But so she ordered me that. She DoorDashed me. I ate that meal like I just gotten out of prison. I ate that, and man, 100 times better.
That's all that sodium in McDonald's, man. Yeah. It'll bring it back to life.
People say it, that's the miracle cure for a headache too, is that meal.
Oh, man.
For migraine, because of the sodium and then the caffeine from the Diet Coke. And if y'all are crispy Diet Coke from McDonald's, if you know, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I wish we had more time, but I think it's safe to say we're going to have you back on. We need to talk a little bit more because I want to actually break into your book, and actually maybe we can have you on.
What's the name of the book?
Yeah, what's the name of the book? It drops on Memorial Day, right?
No, it drops this Veterans Day. The name of the book is Tumblin' Dice, just like the name of the Rolling Stones song.
Tumblin' Dice, and it's Veterans Day, November, right?
Yep. And I'll just give you a quick synopsis.
Yeah, please.
It is a book about, it does involve war, but it's about what happens really kind of after that.
Okay.
So some of the stuff we're talking about now, and I will say it again, it is a book of fiction. Okay. There is a lot of parallels to my life. And
perfect.
People that really know me be like, wait a minute. But there's also things that happened that definitely didn't happen to me. So I'm not trying to
claim,
or anything. Yeah, anything like that. But you write what you know, right? It started off as a book about luck, fate, and do we make our own luck? Do we make our own fate? And kind of those things is kind of discussed. But, and
Wes, it sounds like your life right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Luck and fate, man.
Which is crazy. That was never my life, to be honest, until these last few months. But yeah, it's about that. And the book morphed from where it started back in Afghanistan too, crazily. I guess as I morphed as a person, because it took me 20 something years to finish it. So, so it explores more of what happens really kind of after you go home. Yeah. And you've experienced something traumatic and a lot of things. And it takes a few twists and turns and kind of funny. And it's also very much a period piece, as I like to say, back to the 90s and early 2000s.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I can't wait to read it.
Trying to describe life to people.
Yeah.
Like Jerry, you look pretty young. What life was like before cell phones.
Yeah.
As young as he looks, he knows.
Yeah.
There was a world before cell phones and before the internet, before you could just like call people.
Yeah. That's definitely our childhood. Fortunately, we got to see both sides of it.
Pagers.
Well, we're just gonna say Jarrett's forever 25, so he won't say that he's older than that. So he's just Yeah,
I got
25.
there.
Anybody listening, Jarrett's 25. Don't worry about it. Don't ask any more questions after that. Don't ask him how he knows about the 80s.
I still try to act like I'm 25. That's the problem.
Sometimes we
Always act like you're 25. Never grow older.
Well, Wes, we're going to have you back on. I want to talk more about the book. I want to talk more about, some training. And, I feel like we're friends now. And if you ever need anything, you please do not hesitate to reach out to Jarrett or myself.
If you ever need that last mile,
you ever need
someone
the
to
pizza
push
buddy.
You got me in that last
I got
mile.
the pizza in the last mile. Anytime, anywhere.
Just out there like Bugs Bunny.
That's what I was just gonna say.
You can put it on my back.
Yeah, you just drag it over there and make him chase you for it. But
I make a mean ramen soup too, by the way.
Yeah, ramen.
One last thing, Wes, where can they find you on social media? Follow your story and give me one last sentence for those listening out there that you just want to leave anybody with.
You can find me on Instagram. It's Wes_ultrarunner_rider, or just look up Wes Cornett. I think he goes with my name. And then on TikTok, it's Lewy Body _ultrarunner.
Okay.
I have been taking up TikTok here lately.
Nice.
A little bit more than Instagram. And hopefully real soon I will share that I'm going to be working with the Lewy Body Dementia Association.
Awesome. Very
on
cool.
Some awareness and hopefully some fundraising towards as we get closer to Western states.
Yeah.
And
we'll help you out with that in any way we can.
A veterans organization that I briefly talked to. I'm not going to mention them quite yet, but I'll be speaking with them this week, and hopefully they're going to be another person that's going to get on board where we kind of partner and collaborate on that stuff. And it'd be really great.
Awesome.
Just trying to give back a little bit, because I have realized through all this, myself included, who the hell knows what Lewy Body Dementia is? And people,
you educated us today.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm excited to work with them. And, the one last thing I tell everybody is, I learned this from a friend, is like, we all have challenges, and you can't always look at somebody and say, well, they have more challenges than me. You know what I mean? Like, what I'm saying is, I'm not special because I have Lewy Body Dementia. Everybody has their own challenge, whatever it is, right? It can be a mental block, it can be an eating disorder, all those things. But, you just you can choose to handle it, and choose to press on, because what else are you going to do? There's no, you can't surrender to it, right? You just got to keep showing up day in, day out. And I will also say, just remember, motivation is super great. Everybody loves to be motivated, but we all know that the way we get there is through discipline. And, that's what gets you in the morning out of bed when you're like, oh God, I feel terrible. Like this morning for me was a bad morning. I had a terrible headache. My neck was terrible, stiff, sore, and I had to get up early to go to an eye appointment. And it was just a miserable morning for me. I mean, I woke up at 4 and it just started then, and then finally got up. But how you do that is just by being disciplined and saying, if there may come a day where I can't do this.
Yeah. So,
just take advantage of the days you can.
Beautiful. Well, hang out with us for a couple minutes after I close the show out. That's another episode of the Ostrich Running Podcast.
What an episode.
Oh my gosh.
I just listened through most of that because I learned so much.
Yeah. It was a great story. It's just so true. The things that we take for granted, even the ability to complain about some things, right. is something that we take for granted. And I think just
what
being
you guys
able
have pushed yourself through is just amazing to me.
Yeah. I get inspired every day. But with that being said,
after
make sure
that interview, I might have to take it up to 3 miles.
Here we go, Wes. Thank you for taking him to his ultra 5K.
If he can
that 5K medal,
if he can do pizza and McDonald's.
And still push through it.
I think I
what
can
are you
do.
doing, man?
Yeah,
I love
Might
it.
have to. God dang it.
Well, that's another
God
episode of
dang
the
it,
Ostrich
Wes.
Running Podcast. We appreciate you as always for listening to us, supporting us. Your messages throughout the week, really make this an enjoyable experience. I'd like to thank again my co-host Jarrett. You're always in here.
Just
next to me,
listening today.
listening.
I mean, this was
It's great.
an amazing podcast.
Yeah, we appreciate you. Please continue to listen, like, share, and review the podcast. Cue that outro music.
Who says you need to fly to reach the top? Keep beating your block till your feet are hot. Get your head out the sand, join the flock. It's okay to run scared, we enjoy it a lot. I'm an odd kid, like an ostrich. I got a pod, kids, here's a topic. Blaze your own trail, don't be cautious. 2 birds, 1 stone's how I rock it. Can't make an omelet without breaking a shell. But they say grew up, now I'm raising hell. Haters gonna hate, yeah, they praying you fail. So put in the work, whether pavement or trail. The grades fell down, but they got to the feet. Run your own race, put this pod on repeat. Shake your tail feather, keep nodding your beaks. Ostrich gang, or you're not my peeps. Who says you need to fly to reach the top?